When I first started writing Begin with the Brain, Orchestrating the Learner-Centered Classroom, I wanted to make sure that teachers, obviously then, as the title implies, got that many of the best practices and strategies that we use in classrooms should and can have a brain research background to why they work. And so I framed the book in the way that I first illustrate how the brain goes into the reflex response when it has perceived threat, when it experiences too much stress or perceived threat in the environment. So I really wanted to, in this book, make sure to show teachers practical strategies as to how they could take the brain research and have practical strategies. And the main key point that I wanted to bring about in the Begin with the Brain was the effects of stress and perceived threat on the brain, and how when the brain perceives threat in the environment, it goes into what we call the reflex response. And when the brain's in the reflex response, it minimizes the brain's capabilities to learn. And the reflex response is really kind of the fight or flight reflex response. So when the brain is in that response, then it minimizes learning. All the parts of the brain, the amygdala, hippocampus, aren't working at their full capacity to be able to process and store new memories. So a simple thing like having daily agendas posted when students arrive is a practical strategy, because that way when kids come into a classroom, instead of saying, Mrs. K, is today the day we're going to do this? Mrs. K, are we going to have time to work on all of those questions, which would imply some anxiety from students? If you can post a daily agenda that maybe has some graphics and icons, a great strategy is that when kids walk in, at a glance, can they understand what the game plan for the day is, which is going to reduce their anxiety. Well, the subtitle for Begin with the Brain is Orchestrating the Learner-Centered Classroom. So the model that I kind of follow is that I want teachers to be able to orchestrate agendas, classroom procedures, systems, and patterns so that the classroom feels as safe and secure as possible to students. So I've been a classroom teacher for over 25 years at all grade levels. I taught at elementary, taught at middle school, taught at secondary, and I know that teachers want really practical strategies for setting up a classroom. So in this case, it's setting up a brain-compatible classroom. The Begin with the Brain book has been used now, I know, by many higher level ed folks and people who are doing certificated programs. It's been used as a textbook in many college classes because it is a perfect companion for new teachers to have as they begin to set up their classrooms. I have also people asked to purchase the book to give to new teachers as a gift to launch them, because it has everything in there from setting up the actual physical environment. So if you're a new teacher heading out and really want some ideas for even setting up the classroom, how you might organize the classroom, what kinds of things you might put on the walls, colors you might use, all of that. It has ideas for physical environment, has ideas for setting up, again, those procedures and such. And even then, ideas for how to set up community groups and cooperative learning groups, and ideas for how to allow kids to have some choice. Veteran teachers often, when they get a copy of Begin with the Brain, say that while not all the teachers are all the strategies are brand new to them, that they laugh because they say sometimes they look at those strategies and they say, oh my gosh, I used to do something like this. Why haven't I been doing this? So it's so filled with strategies that many times even veteran teachers go, gosh, I used to do choice activities like that, and this reminds me again to do that, and here's a new version of that in a way that might be more manageable and more relevant today. One of my personal goals in doing the Begin with the Brain book, and what I hope teachers take away from this, is that, and I mentioned this in actually the first few pages of the book, and that is to don't forget that teaching can be really joyful. The first line of the book is a little cartoon that a friend of mine drew that said, when I was getting my teaching credential years ago, we were told our first advice was to not smile until Christmas, to make sure that the students knew that you were the boss, and to don't give an inch. Well, I don't agree with that. I think that through joyfulness, through a sense of fun and freedom, but still within this orchestrated environment of systems and patterns, that I think that teachers need to be reminded that we can really have an engaging learning environment that can be joyful. In our era in the United States of No Child Left Behind, we have emphasized rigorousness so much that some teachers have forgotten that we can still make that rigorous curriculum have fun with it and still make it exciting to kids and engage kids.